me worry about, turning your volume off or your video off or anything like that. That's already done for you. So that is one part of housekeeping. The other part is if you're a county employee, I do see your name and that's popped up. I will say that if you are watching, if you and a spouse are watching together at the same computer, it might only pop up as one person. So if you're needing credit for more than one person in the household, then please type in the chat the last name and tell me both names so that I know that, because I know I see somebody in here that I know there's probably another person in the household there. So if that's a case where you're getting credit for both, then please let me know in the chat. Along with the chat, because we don't have volume for you, we won't be able to see you and you waving your hands at us or anything like that. So if you could just put any questions that you have after the discussion in the chat, then we will go ahead and answer those as we go through. I'll read them to Jen and vice versa for me. Let's see. We are doing this topic is the Eat What You Grow on squash and summer squash. And the next one is going to be on root vegetables and garlic. And that one's going to take place on September 24th at 5:30. And let's see, any other things, question in the chat. I'll give you the website at the end and you can view this again at the after we put it up on the website, or if you know anybody you'd like to share it with, you can go to our website and I'll give you that information at the end of my presentation. And during my presentation, there will be some poll questions to make sure everybody's still with us and engaged and moving on. So I think that's it. Jen, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
All right, that sounds good. I'm getting your names in the chat. I don't know if you guys can see the chat or not, but I'm getting them. So I will make sure you get credit for both participants. Okay. All right. Have at it, Jen.
All right. Second here. Okay. All right, we good? Okay, so as Chris said, I'm Jen Sawyer. I'm the Ag and Natural Resources Program Associate for Commercial Agriculture at the Cooperative Extension of Cape May County. I also run the Home Horticultural Helpline. And so today I'm going to just kind of quickly go over growing summer squash and the more common pests and diseases that we encounter. So summer squash, which is Cucurbita pepo, you'll hear a lot of people refer to them as cucurbits, and that is the family that pumpkins are in, and the other winter squashes. But summer squash are zucchini, crookneck, straightneck, patty pan, and there are other types. There's really no big difference between zucchini and what a lot of people consider summer squash, which is usually the yellow varieties, other than the shape of the squash itself. The zucchini tends to be very straight, and the yellow squashes tend to either have a bit of a curve, such as the crookneck, and they're narrow at the top and then become a little more bulbous at the bottom. The different summer squashes will come in either a bush variety or a vining variety. Bush varieties are great for smaller gardens. They're a more compact plant. Vining varieties, that tends to be more like this more specialty squashes, like a patty pan, and you know, just some of the stuff that you don't normally find in the local markets. So you'll need more growing space for that. And the plants will have separate male and female flowers, and so we definitely, you know, going to need insect pollinators to pollinate in order to get any kind of fruit off of your plants. So, growing summer squash is probably one of the easiest things to grow and start it from seed. Direct sowing is best, which is when you directly put the seed into the ground. You can start them earlier, but they tend to not always transplant well. If the plant gets a little leggy before you transplant, they tend not to thrive as well. It may take them longer to recover. So if you can, direct sowing is best. We are just now getting towards the end of when you can direct seed. to get a later fall crop of squash. They are mainly seeded in New Jersey in the southern counties from April 15th through August 15th. And then if you're joining us from a further north county, from May 10th to about August 1st. If you're growing in rows, and if you're growing in the ground, depending on the size of the mature plant, you're going to need about 5 to 6 feet between plants. And if you're going to grow 2 rows, 2 to 3 feet between those rows. So the growing requirements, squash like to grow in soil that has a pH range of 6.0 to 6.5. You want well-drained soil, but you don't want soil that's going to dry out. You want to make sure there's enough organic matter in the soil in order for it to retain some moisture. They like to be consistently, they want to have that consistent moisture. You can grow in raised beds. You can grow directly into the ground. There are varieties that have been developed for containers, so just check your seed packets and your catalogs. When you're watering, since they have such a large leaf surface, you really want to water at the base of the plant. You don't want to get a lot of excess water on the leaves. That's just kind of a breeding ground for fungal diseases. And when things get really hot, like we had, pretty hot 2 weeks there, you want to try to make sure things are kept evenly watered. Water them in the morning. They may wilt a bit during the hotter part of the sun, but then when the sun kind of goes away, you'll see them perk up a bit. For most fruits and vegetables to be grown and get a good yield, you want to have 6 to 8 hours, closer to 8 hours of full sun. That means like no dappled shade, no tree shade, as much full sun as you can. And then fertilizer, which I just realized I spelled wrong, you can side dress, which means just kind of put it around the base of the plants with fertilizer. After the plant has gotten quite a bit of mature leaves on it, it's, a half a cup. The 4600, that is the number that you would find on the fertilizer. That's a nitrogen-rich fertilizer. I can't read this because I'm in my way. The 2733 or the 1031, those are all your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium numbers that you'll find on the bags of fertilizer. But you can see that, a half a cup of nitrogen fertilizer for a 100-foot row. So you're going to be using like tablespoons per plant. Okay, so there's a lot of varieties available now. I'm not going to go through the different varieties. If you were with us for our basil and our lettuce growing workshop, I spelled spineless wrong too. So much better usually. I went through different varieties that were pretty specific for our area and through Rutgers. But with summer squashes, if you open any seed catalog, there's like 3 pages. So you just want to look for anything that has a high amount of disease resistant, something that's, if you're going to be planting into the ground, or if you are going to be planting in containers or raised beds, just make sure that those are specific. So like you wouldn't want a bush variety if you're going to be in raised beds, because they're still going to take up quite a bit of space. Another thing that I discovered about 3 years ago is they now have spineless varieties. So all those little spines that are normally on the underside of the leaves and
there's no volume, Jen.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. When you go in and out like that, it shuts the volume down. I don't know why, but we lost you for a minute.
It told me I didn't have bandwidth or something. But
yeah.
Oh, sorry. So what was the last thing you heard?
The last thing we heard, you started talking about, you said that there was 3 different pages of varieties. Yeah.
So, look through, see what kind of varieties you want to grow. Do you like the yellow squash? Do you like yellow zucchini? Do you want just plain yellow or green zucchini? Do you want things that get larger fruits on them? There's spineless varieties, which are my new favorite because they don't have the sharp little spines that are all over the underside and the leaves on the stems. And it really makes picking a lot more of a pleasant experience, especially if you're picking off of multiple plants. And once squash starts to produce fruit, you are picking it every single day, and then you will get to the point where you're hiding it on your neighbor's porch because you will be inundated. So also keep that in mind when you are planting. How much, how much is your family going to consume in the week? Do you have a way to process it for either making pickles or relish, or maybe shredding it and freezing it for later use? You want to keep those things in mind when you're choosing your varieties and deciding on how much to plant. So I'm going to talk just quickly about the two biggest pests that we have. The squash bug, which, if you know what a stink bug looks like, it's in the same category. So the adult squash bugs, they're kind of flat on top and kind of a grayish to black that can be about a ½ inch to an inch long. Certain species are pretty big. And what they will do is they will suck out the plant juices, and you will start seeing like one stem and one leaf will start to wilt and die back and kind of lose color, and then the next, like another section, and the higher the pest pressure, the quicker that whole plant will just die. And they will also feed, the nymphs will feed on the fruit as well. So the picture on the left, you'll see an adult squash bug and then the egg mass. The egg masses are very easily seen. Most of the time, you will find them on the underside of leaves, and you can scrape them off. And it's something you'll want to scout for every day when you're out picking, because it does not take long for them to just completely take over the plant. And then on the right-hand side, those are the nymphs. They have very distinct little gray bodies, and they'll be in several instars. So they start out really tiny and will have several instars before they turn into the adult. And they will do quite a bit of damage to that plant. And where you'll find them most likely will be down in the base of the plant where all the stems are coming up. You'll find them on new fruit on the stem end. You'll find it when you pick up fruit. A lot of times they'll be kind of underneath where they're sheltered, and they'll be under the leaves and on top of the leaves, and they're pretty easy to spot and squish. You can use insecticidal soaps on them, but you have to use those when they're in that instar stage, because once they're a mature adult, you have to use a little more of a lethal pesticide because it's harder to penetrate their exoskeleton. Okay, now the other one is the squash vine borer, which can be just the absolute bane of any gardener's existence. Yes, Chris had a very classic example of squash vine borer. You'll have this big, beautiful plant, and you'll have blossoms, and the next thing you know, you see a little bit of weird gummy stuff on the stem, and you don't think much of it, and you don't see any insects on it, and within a week, your plant is dead. Basically, it will just wilt and go to nothing. So the squash vine borer, it's kind of a waspy looking moth. It's more wasp-like than moth, but it is a moth. I've never actually seen myself an adult. I've only seen photos, but the larva I have seen. You can cut open the stem. You can find the holes where it has drilled in, and sometimes you can cut the stem a little bit and pull the larva out. But there can be several in a plant, and they will just kind of go through and destroy the inside of the plant and feeding off of that, and basically will kill it off, and it'll become so mushy that the majority of the time rot sets in, and the stem will just break right off. And it's usually right around soil level to, they start right around soil level, but will move all the way up through the stem as far as they can before they're ready to pupate. So there is one of the larvae after they have cut away. They're usually pretty hidden. You do have to dig into the stem very carefully to get them out. And this is what the damage looks like. I don't know, do you guys see my pointer as it goes around? Okay, so you can see there's damage here at the base of the plant, at the soil. So it most likely started there, grew a bit, and then just started slowly making its way up. And you can see how these leaves have, you know, just wilted off, and then other infection sets in and rot sets in. And there's really no hope for that plant at that point, because it has destroyed so much of the stem that whatever the roots are bringing up, there's nowhere for the roots to send it. You know, it's kind of, they might as well just cut the plant off. So at that point, you want to pull it out, put it in the trash, clean up any debris from that area. Now, if you look up here, you can see another hole, which might be an exit hole, or it might be where there may be more larvae further up the stem. The two diseases that we have most trouble with here are powdery mildew and downy mildew, which will start occurring around now, especially with this humidity. And the treatment for both of them is to use a fungicide that's labeled for those diseases. So with powdery mildew, especially here in New Jersey, we don't tend to see it until mid-July. The Rutgers Plant and Pest Advisory Group tracks the movement of powdery mildew from the south, and the spores are kind of carried up from the south in all these lovely storms that we get during the summer. And they usually put out an announcement for farmers that, start checking for powdery mildew because it's been spotted in certain counties and on certain crops. And it's a pretty easy to spot and identify. It's kind of a whitish talcum-like powdery fungus. It looks like your plants are dusty. Usually the older leaves down the bottom will get this, but at that point they may already be in the start of their decay and discoloration, and they'll kind of go a gray color, and you may not catch it right away. But long periods of rain, really high humidity, like we've been having, not enough light during the day to kind of dry up that extra moisture, it's kind of that perfect storm for the powdery mildew. Now, downy mildew is different. I don't know if it says it on here. So for the powdery mildew, that will grow on any surface of the plant. It will be on the bottoms and the tops of the leaves, the stems. You'll even see it on the fruit sometimes. If it's a really heavily diseased plant, you will also have the mildew on the zucchini or the squash itself. It's not harmful to humans. You can always pick it off and still, just wash it and you can still consume it. Now, downy mildew, rarely, unless it's a really bad infection, will it be on the top sides of the leaves. It's almost always on the underside of the leaf. Again, it's kind of, you'll see little yellow spots from the upper surface. And if you turn the leaf over, you'll start to see what they call lesions, but you'll see kind of this grayish, it's a darker gray, little tiny specks, which will kind of look like a dusting of almost like a charcoal dust. And sometimes it can also get to have like rather purplish in color. And they will, when the conditions are right, things are really humid again, moderate temperatures, not enough airflow around the plant, not enough sun to help dry out that moisture, it will take over and pretty much knock that plant down. It works a lot quicker to knock a plant down than the powdery mildew. And then once those leaves start to die off, then your fruit, you're going to end up having sun scald, and depending on where you live, the farm that I worked at, we had crows come in and they were taking bites out of the fruit because they weren't really hidden by anything anymore. They were just kind of out there when we had downy mildew come through. So, all right, so the references that I use for this, Rutgers does have a fact sheet on squash vine borer, and a lot of the other information came from a crop profile that was compiled by one of our agents, and also the pest management guide for melons, which are the cucurbits. That's my email address. I am still working remotely, so if anybody has any questions on these, or if you are growing squash at home and you think you might have some of these problems, please feel free to reach out to me. Send me some clear pictures of the damage, and hopefully we can help you rectify it. And that is it for me. I'm going to unshare my screen here.
Thanks, Jen. That was great, and I can speak to the borers again. They tore me up. They got rid of all my plants. Every time we do one of these presentations, I'm having trouble growing whatever it is we're talking about. So I always get some good advice from that. Do you want to answer questions now, or do you want to wait till the end?
Yeah, we can answer questions now.
Okay, so if anybody has a question, if you want to put it in the chat, if you have a question for Jen, and if you don't think of it now, you can put it in later when I'm talking. That's fine. There's no problem there. All right. Jen, did you give me back sharing? Can I do that now? No.
Oh, there you go. Hold on. I had to click on you first.
Thanks.
It looks like you're highlighted, but you're not. Okay, you should be good too.
Okay, I'm good to go. All right. Let's see. All right, we good?
Yeah.
Okay. So as Jen said, I'm also working remotely still, and here to answer any questions that you might have. You're welcome to reach out to us at any time, and we're here to help out with any questions that you have. I have a lot of, in addition to the Eat What You Grow that we're going to be doing on September 24th together again for root vegetables and garlic, I have a few presentations coming up that you can find at our website, and I will put those on at the very end so that you can see those. I am going to, like I said, be doing some polling because I need to do that as part of my job requirements, unfortunately. So let me see. I'm at big screen here. Let me go here. I'll open the poll now. It'll give you about 5 minutes to answer those questions if you have any. I saw, Jeff, that you just asked about favorite recipes, and I am going to share those with you after the everybody that attends, or everybody that registered. I'll send out a couple of recipes that I've tried, and they're really good. In fact, the one is really good. We had it the other day, and it was so good. I'm going to make it again, and even the kids ate it. It was that good. So I'll share those with you. I'm going to open the poll now. I'm getting some kind of message here. So you have 5 minutes to answer that. And that's just a few questions about your habits and what you've been doing around zucchini. Oh, people that are joined from the video system or video conferencing can't view the content that I'm sharing. I understand that. That's fine. And everybody has a different way of joining us. So if you want to go ahead and answer the questions, that would be great. And I will get started. As Jen mentioned, or as we mentioned ahead of time, I'm from the Family Community Health Sciences Department at Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Cape May County, and we focus on nutrition and wellness and fitness, where Jen focuses on the agricultural portion. But we also, of course, have 4-H for the children, and there's a lot of great programs there. Cape May County is so fortunate to have a wonderful leader, and in Linda Horner, who is the person that does my job for 4-H, and so if any of the kiddos, they're doing everything virtually right now. So if there's any kiddos in your life that could use some really cool information, you can reach out to me and I'll get you in touch with Linda. But they are still doing programming as well. So I often think about the fact that the programming, somebody sent me a video from programming back in the 1940s, what my job was like. And it showed a woman driving to a farm and giving instruction to the housewife there, and how far we've come. And the fact that we are now doing this virtually is wonderful. So Jen's telling me there's only one choice on the first question. Uh-oh, it's only allowing one choice. Okay, that's all right. Sorry about that. We'll skip on to it and go on to the next question if you can. And one of those virtual glitches, I guess we have. So on that note, we have started a campaign at Rutgers that we are here for you if you need us, when you need us. So we're still here. And if you have questions for any of us, we're still available and we're really glad to answer those. And I encourage you to reach out if you do have any questions for us. So this was the start before I got the boards. This picture here was the start of my beautiful squash plant that is no more. And like Jen said, it got a hold of the plant really quickly, didn't know what it was, and it kind of took it away from me. So unfortunately, we only got a few squash and zucchini this summer, and I'm going to try to replant. But tonight I have 3 objectives that I wanted to cover for our discussion on squash and zucchini. First, I want to talk about the health benefits of summer squash, and there's a lot of them, and how to prepare and enjoy squash and zucchini. And then I also want to talk about preserving it long through the winter months. So we'll cover that as well. So there are the 3 objectives as we move through. I think I just saw somebody. Jen, can you jump in if there's a question and read it to me, because I'm having a hard time seeing them. All right. So there is a difference, a little bit of a difference. Like Jen said, growing them not much, but there's a little bit of a difference. And Jen mentioned that they're kind of interchangeable, and zucchini and squash are interchangeable. They look the same, as she said. The yellow squash usually is a little more bulbous on the end, and they have a bright yellow skin, but zucchini can also have a yellow skin to it. So they both grow like fruits and have seeds and a flower, but they're considered vegetables. When we talk to children in school, even though they grow that way, they could be considered a fruit. It is more cooked like a vegetable, so we consider it a vegetable. Both yellow squash and zucchini have a variety of nutrients, and like I said, they're really good, healthy vegetables. Both are really high in vitamin A, which supports a healthy immune system. And that's really important right now. I mean, you hear a lot of talk about a vaccine and cures and all kinds of things. But one of the really important things that you have to remember all the time, and right before this all happened, I did a talk that, like, the day before everything shut down at one of the libraries locally. And oh, you can see my notes? Jen just told me I can see my notes. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of them. One of the things that I talked about was at that discussion was how important it is to be healthy all the time. If you're eating healthy vegetables and you're eating healthy things, then you're going to be able to fight disease a lot better. And when something like this comes down the line that's kind of not going to solve for a loop, this is a good way to prevent that by being healthy. And so eating a vitamin-packed veggie like zucchini or squash is a great way to do that. And both zucchini and squash are high in vitamin A. They have, excuse me, they're good for your vision, and they're good for your immune system. So that's really important to think about. They also contain vitamin B and C, and they help the body to heal and maintain good cells and give us energy. So another good reason, helping us to get better, they help us create new cells, and they're going to give us a lot of energy and maintain that good health overall. They are also rich in magnesium, and that creates good bone strength, and it helps us to process fats and carbohydrates properly. So they're really good reasons to eat squash and zucchini, but you want to make sure that you're eating them all the time. You're not going to, I say this all the time to the kids, you can't just eat zucchini and then say, oh, I'm not going to get sick. That's something you want to eat, zucchini and squash and other vegetables of all different colors all the time, so that you maintain good health throughout. And they're also going to help you to prevent chronic diseases. So there's some of the benefits that we're looking at. I'm just going to take a second here and see if I can, I'm going to make sure I got everything off of my notes. Jen, can you still see my notes screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why it's doing that tonight, because the last time I was good, I have it. I always like to make sure the vitamins and minerals, I'm not missing anything, that's all.
That's your note screen again.
Yeah, that's my note screen again. It's back. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. All right. So one of the things that's really important is to make sure that we have, again, a diet that's healthy. But one of the things that's been found from vegetables like zucchini and squash is that they have really good cancer prevention abilities. So there's been studies shown, and again, I can bring up my notes here to show you, that there was a study done by Ferdinand Benmore et al., and they talked about the cause of more than 1/3 of cancer deaths as bad, inappropriate dietetic habits. So, right there, it's a great reason to be eating healthy things, and, using zucchini and squash is a good reason to eat that. It's cancer prevention. They contain protective elements for a cancer prevention diet, like vitamin B, antioxidants, lutein, folate, and that's according to the review of evidence for an anti-cancer diet, which was a study done on that topic. So in addition to all the vitamins and minerals we mentioned in the past, and on the last slide, cancer prevention is a really good one too. Another part of zucchini and squash is that they have a high water content. And some people might think, well, there's a high water content, how's that great for vitamins and minerals? There is that high vitamin and mineral content, but there's also the high water content. And that's important because having that good water content helps to keep us full longer. It's going to be a low calorie, high vitamin packed choice for dinner, lunch, snack on top of salads. It also has a high fiber content. So, that of course keeps everything moving normal, like we like to have happen. But in addition to that, they find, the studies done show that high fiber content diets are really good for prevention of heart disease. So that's going to help us with cardiovascular issues. So high fiber content, high water content, cancer prevention. And then last but not least is good gut health. So we've heard a lot on TV. There's advertisements all the time for good health, good gut health, probiotics. They tell you to eat Greek yogurt. That's good for it. But there's also a lot of soluble and non-soluble fiber in there in these products, in these zucchini and squash. And they're really good because they're going to help you to maintain a good gut health. So it's just another way, if you're looking to do that. Overall good gut health, they're finding is good across the board. It helps our health. If our gut's healthy, then we're healthy overall. So these are important things to remember. Good reason, good excuse to get the kiddos eating them. If you're not eating them now, then this is a good reason to add them into your diet, because they really do pack a good punch. And they're low in calories. So you're getting full, you're getting good vitamins and minerals, and at the same time, you're not getting a lot of calories. So preparing and enjoying, preparing and enjoying zucchini and squash. Like Jen said, there's a lot of squash and zucchini, and you're going to start seeing them drop off at people's houses. They show up on your doorstep, and, oh, what do I do with them? So there's a lot to be produced, but there's a lot of things you can do with them too. So one of the things that's really popular is breads, muffins, cakes, zucchini bread, zucchini cake, zucchini muffins. They're great. They make things really moist, and they're a great thing to add into a recipe. When you find a recipe for that, make sure there's not a lot of sugar, fat, and salt. So use the zucchini's moisture to make the product moist, to make it good tasting. Zucchini and squash are really sweet vegetables. So it's a good way to add some sweetness, but try to make sure that they're lower on the sugar and fat. So, search them out and find out which ones are best and which you enjoy the most, but try to make sure when you're looking that they're lower in those sugar, fat, and salt contents. So you can prepare zucchini and squash as a main dish or as a side dish, like I said, a bread or dessert or a salad topper. So one of the things I wanted to point out is over here on the bottom. This is the recipe I made. I'm going to send this one to you. It's a zoodles recipe, and I don't know, let me see if you can see. I have a zoodles package here with me. You can see on the side here that they're little spirals that look like spaghetti. If you've never seen them before, they have them in most of the grocery stores. They're in the produce area. This package was probably about $4 or $5, so it is a little costly to get them pre-made like this, but you can get a handheld spiraler, and you can just put the zucchini in there and it makes the little spirals. I've used this. I'm not real successful with it. You have to have a really nice firm zucchini. It might be good to put it in the refrigerator first, I guess, to get it nice and firm, but this you can use. There's also some attachments sometimes to different mixers and blenders. And there's also some attachments, I think, to some food processors. And there's also some other handheld ones that you would crank. So you can make your own zoodles it's a lot more cost effective than buying them, but you could also buy them at the grocery store if you so desire. And in this particular recipe, I used non-fat or low-fat cream cheese. I used some Parmesan cheese, a little bit of skim milk, and then I added some tomatoes from the garden too. And it was really good. We had it as a side dish, but it would make a really good meal as well. And if you can make if you're doing meatless Monday or something, you can make this as your meal, or you could add some protein in there. You could add shrimp or chicken or something in there if you wanted to too. So that's a great recipe, and I'll share that with you after the event. I'll get that emailed out to everybody. And as a salad topper, it's really good to shred zucchini and squash, and it sweetens up your salad a little bit and gives it a little extra flavor. So that's a good way to add it as well. When I was writing this, I said you can boil it, you can saute it, you can bake it, you can eat it raw. I feel like the scene from Forrest Gump where they're talking about shrimp, but you can do a lot of things with zucchini and squash. There's a lot of great recipes out there, and it's a good time to use them right now and enjoy them because they're so fresh and good right now. And as I mentioned before, we can add it into the cakes and breads, and that gives a little extra nutrients, right? So instead of all just being sweet things, it gives that extra nutrient that helps our bodies. And then also preserving, you can preserve zucchini and squash. You have that excess right now. It's a good time to start preserving it. And I'm going to talk about that in my last slide. But preserving it so you can enjoy it all winter long is another way to prepare the zucchini and squash. Now I'm stuck. Oh, too far. All right. So one of the things I really like about zucchini and squash this time of year is I'm always looking for quick, easy meals or side dishes. And it's a pretty fast and easy way to make zucchini and squash, as a side dish. So this recipe, again, I'm going to send it to you. This is just like a zucchini squash mixed base. And I want to show you how, hopefully it'll let me show you how easy it is. I did a little slide here. So this is just a quick little video on how easy it is to make this. Just took me a couple minutes. Just toss it in olive oil and then you line it up in the pan. Then you're just going to use a little bit of breadcrumbs, salt and pepper, and some Parmesan cheese. And you mix them together in the bowl, sprinkle them over top. And then you just bake it in the oven at 350. And like I said, I'll send you that out. It's a really tasty treat. And again, the kids ate it, they liked it. So, and they're critics, all kids are. Let me see if I can get that here now. So it's a great way to quickly make a side dish, easy to take places, easy if you're having a barbecue to throw on as a side dish and have a little extra veggies in there. All right, so last but not least is preserving the squash and zucchini. And I'm going to do Avalon Library has asked me to come out and do a talk on safe canning and preserving in September. So I'm going to do that virtually. It's going to be, I think, September 2nd, but you can find that on our website for the exact date. And in that class, we talk a little bit about the safety and a lot about how grandma's recipe isn't always the best way to go now. So one of the things that's been found is that the recommendation for preserving zucchini and squash is now to blanch and freeze them. They used to allow for you to can it, but they're finding that the recommendations for the time limit is not always good. So you want to make sure if you're going to preserve it, you're going to blanch and freeze it, not actually can it, because it's not safe to do so. And I know people always say to me, "Oh, my grandmother did it," but nowadays it's really evident that we need to follow safe food practices and preserving fat practices. And we're discovering a lot more things are not always the safest, the way things used to be done. So the safest way is to blanch and freeze that. Canning zucchini and squash, like I said, is no longer considered safe. You always want to make sure you're using USD recommendations when you're canning. So USDA and Ball are they're doing the research, they're making sure things are safe, and you want to make sure you use those recommendations. Michigan State Extension recommends the following methods to preserve squash and zucchini. They're over here on the right. So you want to choose a young squash. And I brought this, you can see in my video here that this squash is not so good looking. And I'm going to hold this one up and you can probably see too. See how the skin is damaged here? So people a lot of times will preserve things because they think the best way to preserve them is to preserve them to keep them so they don't go bad. This zucchini, you can peel the skin off and still eat. I don't know if there you can see it. Or not zucchini, squash, sorry. You can preserve it best by just eating it now. You don't want to put it into the water and blanch it because it's not that fresh. The skin's not looking good. So it's not going to keep that well frozen. So you want to always start with things that look good on the outside. They're firm, they're not mushy. It's not a way to preserving is not a way to keep and extend the life of food. It's rather you want to use the best quality that you can. So you want to wash and cut it in 1/2-inch slices, much like it was shown in the video. And then you want to water blanch for 3 minutes. So you just want to pop them in the boiling water, cool them promptly, drain and package them. And you want to leave about a 1/2 inch of headspace when you package them. You can package them in a freezable, sealable container, but you still want to leave that head. What's in there and what it is or how long it's been there. It could be last year's zucchini for all you know. So you want to make sure.
Go back a little bit because you went out.
Sure. When did I go out, Jen?
Not exactly sure. It was after you were talking about using the best produce to.
Okay. Yep, I can go back to that. All right, so you want to, again, make sure you're using the best produce. I'm not sure if you saw the picture. This is not a good example of it. You can see that the skin's no good on this. So you want to make sure that you're using things that look good on the outside. They're nice and firm to preserve. So they're the cream of the crop, what you're preserving, so it lasts longer and is good to use. That particular squash you could chop up tonight, which I probably will chop up tonight and use and peel the skin off of it so it'll be fine. But you want to make sure when you're preserving things that the stuff that you're putting into blanch looks and then freeze looks really good. So you're going to wash and cut the zucchini or squash into 1/2-inch slices, and then you're going to put them in a boiling water blanch for 3 minutes, and then you're going to cool them off promptly. Drain them and package them and leave about a 1/2 inch of headspace in there. And when I say that, you want to use something that is freezer safe. So a freezer safe container that has about a 1/2 inch of headspace to leave room. Or if you're doing it in a Ziploc bag, same thing, you want to have some headspace in there. You always want to make sure that you seal it well and you label it and freeze it. On your label, you should have a date as well. So you want to date it and say, okay, we're doing it. We did this on 8/6 and of 20, so that when you find it in the bottom of the freezer, you know what it was and what happened, where it came from. So you're not eating things from last year. All right. If you do want to do canning, if you want to use the canning like a jar like this, if you want to do canning, I will send you a pineapple zucchini recipe. And you can use the pineapple. That's the only way that's safe to use. The pineapple zucchini is the only safe way. And you need to follow canning recipes to the T. And the reason for that is because, without getting into too much detail, is you need to really watch the acid levels. So you want to make sure that it's something that's going to keep and it's going to be safe for your family to consume afterwards. You don't want to be given Cousin Joe the bad pineapple zucchini because it didn't have the right mixture and he's getting sick, because you're not going to be really popular after that. So make sure that you're using the things that you need to do. So the only way we can is by using pineapple zucchini recipe. You cannot can like we used to do, where you chop it up and put it in there. If you want to preserve zucchini and squash, you're going to do that by blanching and freezing it and putting a label on it in a freezer safe container. Okay. All right. So again, the health benefits of using squash and zucchini are great. There's a lot of them. They help prevent disease. There's a lot of vitamins and minerals. They're low in calories, and they have a lot of good health benefits for us. Preparing it's really simple and easy, and they taste great. So it's a good reason to eat zucchini. And then preserving, we're just going to blanch and freeze it because that's the only safe method. And then you can enjoy them. So I'm going to, I will put up, these are my, I wanted to share this with you before we do the last poll. This is where to find us. We have our Cape May County Rutgers Cooperative Extension site that you can go to. And again, that'll have all three groups programs that we're doing. You can reach Linda there for 4-H. You can get Jen and Gary from Ag, and you can get me from FCHS. And then you have my website for my department at the university is here. This is the home lawn and garden site. And then you have information here with COVID. So we have all kinds of different information around COVID there from Rutgers. And then there's also the Facebook page that you can find us at, that you can locate us at. And here are all my references that I used. Everything we use is evidence-based and research-based. All right, so now I just need to do my poll. All right, so I'm going to open this poll, and if you would be, did the second one open? Yep, okay, there's a second poll, if everybody would be so kind as to answer that. And I'm going to look in the chat and see if we have any questions here. A lot of stuff going on my screen right now. Jen, Jeff Cohen asked what you can do to prevent the borers. Did I lose you, Jen?
Okay, I had to find myself, and for some reason, I'm not seeing any of the questions. They must just be going to the host.
I gotcha.
Instead of everybody, because I would have answered that.
It has people in progress, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, they were asking, Jeff asked if about the preventing borers.
Okay, so you have to be pretty alert of when the adults are out and laying their eggs. I know sometimes you can, if you don't want to use any kind of insecticidal sprays, sometimes you can wrap like tinfoil around the base of the stem for a few, like maybe 6 inches up the stem from the soil, because the larva will be coming. I'm remembering this correctly, so I will double check. If I double check and I'm wrong, I'll send an email out. They do hatch out from the soil and will climb up onto the stems and bore in, so they can't get contact with the stem itself. So so you can kind of put that barrier around it. Sometimes it's no matter what you do, you still get them. If you're out in your garden every day and you notice the bore holes, and there's not a serious amount of damage, and you're not seeing the frass come out of the holes yet, sometimes you can kind of figure out where the larva may be if it's just on the stem. And you can stick like a pin or a very narrow knife point down in there and try to just kind of kill it. You don't want to cut through your stem too much. You don't want to do too much of your own damage. I've had success with that personally a few times. Other times I have not seen the hole until there was a bigger hole and there was frass and my plant was dead. So it's just, it can be a battle.
All right, and then the next question from Stan asks, if I see little eggs under the leaf, what can I do to get rid of the eggs? Can I scrape them off the leaf and burn them?
You can. So the best thing you can do is have a can or a bottle with soapy water, and just scrape them off and scrape them into the, like if you have an empty water bottle, like recyclable water bottle, just scrape them into there and then you can get rid of them. Don't have to burn them or anything.
All right, thanks.
Nothing
So,
drastic.
you don't have to get drastic. Not like ticks, right? Somebody had asked if I could restart the slides from the beginning, and I'm going to post on our website. It took me a few days to get it out of the cloud, but I'll post the recording, and you can also email me if you didn't see all the slides. But I don't know. Can you see them now, Jen?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's some of them. We're just talking about the beginning. It was about the vitamins, everything. I put the highlights of them up there, and I usually talk around the highlights. So they're the first few that are there, and then this one too. Don't worry about the poll. It's okay. Somebody asked, are other zucchini pickles okay to can? So the reason there's a problem around canning zucchini is because like I said, the acidity level is hard to establish, as well as the time to have them in the cooker, in the canner. So I would recommend going to the USDA. They have recalled some of the previous posts that they put up there, according to the University of Michigan. So I would go up there and check out what they have and see what they say on that. But the high recommendation right now is not canning, just because you don't know if they're safe or not. And when I do the talk on canning and safety, that's one of the things that unfortunately is said, is that if things are not safe, you're gonna want to get rid of them. So it's it's unfortunate, but you want to make sure that you're canning things safely, and that's the only recommended way right now, is through blanching. Let's see what else I have. No problem about the poll. All right. And anybody else have any questions? All right. Like I said, we will post this. So if you want to share it with anybody, or you want to go back and review anything, that's fine. If you need any fact sheets or anything that we can help you out with, we have a plethora of information. Jen, when I asked about the board, she said, we have a fact sheet on that. I said, of course we have a fact sheet on that. So, we do have fact sheets on all of that. If anybody is a county employee, and like I said in the beginning, you're watching with somebody, so you're sharing the same computer, it might just be coming up as Chris Zellers, but might be Chris and somebody else. If there's somebody else in the family viewing with you, just stick that in the chat for me now. And I did get a host of people that sent it to me already, but if you didn't send it yet, then go ahead and send that. And I think that's all. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. If you have questions, you can reach out to us with our information, our website. Let me see, can I put the websites back up here? And I hope you'll join us again in September. We will be back and talking about root vegetables, and we'll be talking about root vegetables and garlic, which garlic is another good way to create a healthy immune system. So here's our contact information, our website and whatnot, if you'd like to get us. And we'll see you again soon in the future. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
We still have about 15 people in.
Did you check, cut off the recording?
Yeah, let me do that. It'll help me in the long run.